I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen.
What is this one?
This is a good one.
I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen.
Oh.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Give me two more.
I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen.
All right. I think we're good. I think you're all warmed up.
Digging in the crates for something good. Hidden gems often misunderstood. 'Cause you know there's no such thing as too much. Miscellaneous important stuff.
Welcome back to the show. This week, I talked to my friend Amy. We work together in advertising. She is a graphic designer, an illustrator, an artist, a person with a lot of different hobbies and interests, but that is not what we talked about today. Today, we talked about Amy living abroad in Germany when she was younger. It was an interesting conversation. I learned a lot about my friend Amy, and I had a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. Here it is. To start off, tell me, what is the most significant change you saw in yourself from living in Germany?
Just starting it off with a bang.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably I went to Germany as a missionary. It's kind of like a study, not a study program, like a internship type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't really go to a church.
Okay.
Which is kind of a big deal because, you know,
It's a big change in life.
big life change.
So that's how you got to Germany.
Right. Yeah.
What was the program exactly like? How did you find out that you could even do that?
Well, okay.
And how old were you?
I have to go back a little bit.
Let's go all the way back.
Let's go back a little bit.
Let's go back to the beginning.
So, I mean, I was raised mostly in the Midwest, so pretty conservative area of the country. I grew up going to church, like my parents. My dad was raised Church of Christ, and then my mom converted when they got married. So we grew up going to church pretty much my whole life. And I never thought anything of it. I mean, that's just how
That's what you knew.
What I knew. It was, you know, all my summers were spent at church camps, and I didn't think, I mean, all my friends were church friends, so it was just my normal. So growing up that way, you don't think anything different, like you're in that world.
Yeah.
And normally, I would say people, when they go to college, they have that time of self-discovery and everything, but I didn't really break out of that in college because I went basically right next door to my church, to Oklahoma Christian.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a big step away from my norm to go to college, and I kind of felt like I was just still in that bubble. And even like when I graduated, I just kind of was like concerned about going right into advertising. I wasn't sure, did I really want to do this? Is this something I'm really interested in still? And I was just nervous about it, like a lot of kids are when they graduate college.
Yeah,
like, did I get the right degree?
Here?
So I really didn't know if that's what I wanted to do anymore. And so through the church and the school, they have a program called Helpers in Missions. And you are basically going to overseas to where a missionary's at and working alongside them. So kind of like an internship type thing. And it's usually you can choose 1 or 2 years depending on what you want to do and where you're going. I mean, you can stay longer, but the program only goes for 2 years at the most. So basically the church provides half your income, and then the other part I had to raise, like my living expenses and stuff, through just like sending letters out and fundraising and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's how I got over there, was as a missionary, which...
Well, what does that mean exactly, though? What do you do while you're there? Because are you also studying?
No, I had already graduated college,
okay,
so I was done.
You're just a missionary.
I was done. I was just a missionary. And it kind of just depends on who and where you're going. Like, it's not like there's like a set thing you're going to do. But yeah, you're going over there to like work with the church. So when I was over there, I did like kind of like some English lessons with people. I did Bible study stuff. I did like kids group stuff. And then a lot of it is just building relationships with people over there with the goal in mind of like bringing them to church and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're like a missionary like that. Your goal is to convert people. I mean, let's just be real. That's what your goal is.
That's so interesting to me because I didn't grow up in the church and I had no issue with it. I kind of grew up like we were just told there's a God and there's a heaven and you die, and it was very basic.
Right.
But I wasn't into it like that. It just wasn't part of our family. So when you go over there and your goal is to convert people, I guess, is that the fair thing to say? Convert people to?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what you're trying to bring people into the church, grow the church, you know.
Is that uncomfortable?
Also be a part of the community. Yeah. Well, for one,
because you kind of have to be a salesman, right?
Yeah. In a sense, you're kind of being a salesman of your religion. And where I went, it was Eastern Germany. So, you know, 30 years ago it was under the wall and then communism. There's a lot of people who are just very turned off by religion. And so they call it kind of like a cult. Like people considered us almost like in a cult, which like I found very offensive. Like, I'm not in a cult.
Like, how dare you?
But a lot of people view like Christians and like missionaries as kind of a cult like system or something in Germany. So there's that stigma to get over when you're there. And so
is that the attitude you were met with from most people there?
I only encountered it a little bit. People would question it personally, but it's just kind of a thing that you hear from people. Like, I think once people got to know me, they realized, oh, she's not like some crazy psycho trying to convert me.
Yeah.
But I always was very like nervous about saying I was with a church though when I met people, because I didn't want them to just like be turned off by me immediately. Because I have more to offer than just like religion as a person, you know, as a friend. I wanted them to get to know me as more than that, but it was definitely challenging. And I'm like doing a lot of this in another language I don't know very well. A lot of times I was talking English with people because I do English lessons with them, but it was tough. It took me out of my comfort zone, to the extreme.
Did you end up bringing people to the church?
I brought like a few friends and stuff like that. A lot of it too was building relationships with the people who were at the church already and kind of establishing that connection too. But it was really hard to like write home about it because I had people supporting me. Yeah. So I'm like, a lot of people want to know how many people you convert in there, you know?
I'm at like 6, 7 a day.
And like, that's not something I was like, it's not going to take like, you know, people taking that commitment to do that. It's a lot, like to change that kind of perspective in their life. So yeah, it was a challenge for sure.
So did you like, did your views start to change at all? Like from talking to them, were you met with resistance and then you'd start getting into discussions about religion and spirituality and all that with people?
Well, I'd have discussions with people a lot about different aspects of Christianity, but I don't think it really happened to me when I was over there. Like, I don't think I changed while I was there. I think it was a slow progression because I think going over there changed my worldview in a sense, because I had always been in this small little bubble of all my friends were Christian friends. I went to a Christian school. Like everyone I knew believed the same thing. Yeah. I was never challenged in my faith that way. And so I never doubted it. Yeah. Because I didn't have any other perspective. And so I think just being in another culture where people believe differently than me or just didn't believe anything at all, or, you know, just a wide spectrum of that, like around you all the time, like it kind of changed my perspective on how I view religion too. So, and just, I guess when I came back, I was kind of turned off in a sense on the way that churches are run a lot like businesses, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And not that everything about churches are negative. I'm not trying to bash churches in this podcast. That's not my goal here.
Yeah.
But it just, my world viewpoint kind of changed after being there, but it wasn't like while I was in Germany, I would say.
It was when you got back and you maybe start to think about your experiences and how it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't, I always tell people I didn't grow up in the church, and I don't want to bash it either. I think what I've decided is that I think religion and spirituality and all that is important, but it's also very personal.
Yes, I agree.
So
Yeah.
that's mostly the problem I have with any church or organized religion, because I think, I don't know, you got to figure that out for yourself, and wherever you fall, that's fine. Like whatever you believe, that's great. But it's also a good idea to talk to other people about what they believe and why they believe it. And I don't know. Did you ever feel challenged while you were there though? You just didn't think too deeply about it?
I mean, yes and no. I probably was not a great missionary.
At least you're honest.
It just wasn't like my strong suit to try to like convert people. It really wasn't. I'm great at making friends with people, and I would go hang out with people all the time. A lot of people that I hung out with were in my language class because I had to take a course. I mean, I didn't know any German when I went over there. So I had to take a course to kind of even get started with German there. And I had people in my class from all over the world. And so we hung out quite often. And so it wasn't like I was trying to spread my religion the whole time I was there. It was more like building relationships. So I try to keep it more in that category when I was there.
Yeah,
So,
I bet that feels more natural too.
Yeah.
So like what kind of people did you run into then? As far like forget religion, just like what kind of people did you meet that were different from what you knew here?
Well, it's just, I'll say this is kind of like a broad range of just the German culture, but Germans are just a lot more kind of reserved than Americans are, which was a new thing for me. If people know me, I'm kind of I have a good laugh. And
so true.
I'm not necessarily the quietest person, but I'm not the loudest person either. So going into Germany, I had to I kind of learned to be a different person in a sense, because when you're on like the Straßenbahn, let's say, that's the streetcars, like no one talks, like no one says anything. You're just like quiet.
Not even people
and
that are together. They're
like
not
you're
having a
whispering to each other. So then like there'd be Americans that would come on, like tourists, and I'd be like so annoyed because I'm like, you're a loud American. You're like making this terrible for us.
Like trying to defend all the German people. Like you don't understand.
But the thing is, I look German, so no one knew I was a American too. So I just like blend in and be one of those mad Germans on the Straßenbahn because someone's talking. But no, I mean, just like Germans are a lot more reserved. And so like chipping away at that to try to like talk about deep stuff takes a while. It's not going to be like an overnight, they're going to trust you with really deep personal religious questions.
Yeah.
So it took time to even get to that point with anybody there. And by the time I left, I only had like a few friends that we even talked about deep things like that. So
yeah.
We did like Bible studies couple times a week though, but there's always kind of the same people in them. Every once in a while it'll be someone new, but we was a pretty small church. So
well, I imagine if you went in there and started with, let me talk to you about God, it wouldn't work very well anyway. And like nobody wants to hear that because it does just feel like a sales pitch.
Yes,
it doesn't feel sincere.
I started feeling totally like insincere about, like I just didn't want people to feel that way about me.
Yeah.
I started having like anxiety about doing that because I didn't want to ruin a friendship at the same time.
I mean, if I have a close friend that says, I want to talk to you about what I believe in my religion, I'm going to be much more receptive to that because I'm curious. Like, what do you believe? Because I think it's an interesting conversation. But if somebody comes to my door right now and they go, well, let me talk to you about that.
I didn't do any door knocking.
Right, but I'm just saying, that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Like what?
It wasn't like Mormon where you're going around on bicycles and all that. It was more just like we mostly met people through doing the English studies, and we held like a children's play group type thing. So that's kind of how a lot of the connections were made.
Yeah,
it
but
was
even
trying
then,
to be organic with it, which I did appreciate that. It wasn't like we have to have numbers, like it was never like that.
I can imagine no matter how you do it, bringing up is hard.
Yes.
If you know that your goal and what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, because their first question is, why are you in Germany? And so it's like,
well, funny you should ask.
I know. So it's like, my goal is to make you a Christian. You're like, they're not going to say that. Like,
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, like all the uncomfortableness of that, like I don't regret going.
Yeah.
Because it changed me as a person, changed my worldview. It allowed me to kind of get out of my comfort zone a lot. So I needed that. I needed that push after being in the same world for my whole life at that point till like I was 22 when I went. So
Yeah. What was it like when you first went there? Like got to Germany? Like what was your first thoughts?
So I had gone on a singing campaign like with a group.
So you'd already been.
I had been before to Germany, so I kind of knew it, like the culture a tiny bit. We were there for like 6 to 7 weeks. And so the summer I went to move there, I went with the same group on the same campaign, and then they left. And I took a train to Dresden. And it was like the saddest train I've ever been on. I was like so sad because I'm like, bye. Like, I'm staying. Y'all are flying home. It was kind of weird. I did cry. But no, it was kind of surreal. Like, this was actually happening. Like,
Yeah.
I'm living here. I'm like an adult now. I'd never paid my taxes, but here I am.
Yeah. And this is my life now.
Yeah. It was kind of crazy. Like I was in control of like how I like set up my house and all that kind of stuff. It was the first time really for all that for me.
Because how old were you? Did I already ask that?
I was 22.
Okay.
I had just graduated in April and moved there in May.
Man,
So-
that is a big
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And it was a lot of stress compiled together before that move because graduating, my toughest class, like that semester, my sister got married in like a couple months before I went. And then I went on that campaign. I was trying to raise all the money for like living over there. So just like all of that
Yeah.
within a few like months right before I left.
So what was day to day? Like what was life day to day like there for you?
Well, I mean, at first it was a lot of taking German in the morning. Probably like, I think it was 4-hour classes a day. So, I mean, I had to have intense language studying because I had done some on my own, but I had never, I was trying to learn while at school and all that
Yeah.
going on. So
You weren't
it's like,
immersed in
I wasn't
it.
immersed in it. And I didn't take German in high school. I took Spanish, so that wasn't going to help me. So, yeah, I'd never had any German language skills. And honestly, I am not the best at learning languages. I mean, it took me some time, but being immersed in it really does help.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 4 hours of that per day during the week, like weekdays. And then I'd usually like either try to meet up with somebody for coffee or like we'd do the play group, or it was just kind of different in the afternoons every day.
And did you feel isolated a lot of the time?
Oh my goodness. Yes.
I mean, did you get to a
this
point?
is pre-Facebook. You got to remember, it's like
That's true.
pre-Facebook. No one had iPhones. I mean, I was there from 2004 to 2006. So the iPhone didn't even exist yet. So connection to the world was way different back then.
Yeah.
So, and in a way, I'm kind of glad I had that experience that way. Cause like,
Because you can't really have that now.
no, you can't. You can't have that at all now. Like you're going to be connected still, which is cool. But like I was kind of forced into this whole world, and it would have been like a lot easier if I had still been connected to the world I left back here. But I'm kind of glad I didn't have that experience.
You're forced to
I was
like
forced
get
to
out there. And
I was forced to. I would have probably like tried to connect with people at home still way too much than I needed to, than trying to like get to know my world
Yeah.
in Germany. So
did you get to a point there where you had just really close friends and it felt like home in a way?
yeah, I had like, I lived with a girl I went to school, because I didn't go by myself. Like another girl from college went with me.
Okay.
And so we lived together and shared the apartment space and everything, and which was great at times and also awful at times because just personality differences. We're both dealing with culture shock.
Yeah.
Like our same group of friends. We had the same group of friends. Like, it's just like we were constantly around each other. It was like being in a marriage with someone you're not married to.
And someone maybe you don't want to be married to.
Yeah, exactly. So it was good and bad at times. But so yeah, I had like probably 2 or 3 close friends over there that I made. And then, I mean, just kind of a bunch of acquaintances and stuff through the church and stuff like that. But yeah. So it was a small group that I got to know really
well.
Yeah.
Are there, so outside of like your obligations, what are some of the most memorable experiences? Just things that you got to do in Germany?
I mean, travel was definitely the highlight of it all because you're in such close proximity to so many amazing places. Dresden is where I was, like my city that I was in, which is like 2 hours south of Berlin. So I went to Berlin several times. Prague is just like 3 hours away by train. I probably went there 7 or 8 times. Because like everyone, when they come to visit, because I had a lot of people visit, and everyone that come to visit, they want to go to Prague. So, I mean, I loved it.
You're
so
like, I'll show you.
Went to Prague a lot. But I mean, and like flights like with Ryanair were so cheap. I could fly to different places. So I did get to see a lot that, you know, you don't get to do that as much here.
Yeah.
It's a lot more expensive. So
if you want to go to any one of those places, it'd have to be a separate.
I mean, I could do weekends because like, well, besides, I mean, my weekends were different since Sundays, you know, church and everything. So like I worked that day, but I could take like Friday and Saturday and go somewhere. And that was really easy. So
yeah. what was the best place you visited?
Oh man. I don't know. There's so many good places that's hard to decide. I went to so many places in Germany that was really fun to like really experience like all different aspects of the culture. But I'd probably say Austria is my favorite country to visit. It's just so beautiful. So beautiful. Mountains, everything. The hills are alive.
Scenery.
The hills are alive. The sound of music there.
Do you want to sing it?
You can like bust into that song now. Just kidding. I'm not singing it.
It'll just be underneath for the rest of the podcast.
Yeah.
So what, like, when you were, it was 2 years you were there, right?
Yeah, 2 years.
What were you thinking when it was like almost time to go?
I mean, I was pretty sad, but also I was kind of anxious to get back. I mean, not everything about being in Germany was terrible and not everything was great. So it's like a mixed feelings, you know?
Yeah.
The uncomfortableness of just like constantly trying to think what I was going to say in a different language was tough. Like I dealt with that every day. I probably got to the point where I was slightly fluent. Like I wouldn't say completely fluent.
You could get through a day and do what you needed to do.
But it was work. Like I felt exhausted after the end of the day because I'm constantly like trying to speak in a different language. And it just got so exhausting after a while. So, but I got to the point where I was like having dreams a little bit in German. So I felt like I was pretty fluent in that aspect. But I just remember the first most uncomfortable feeling I had with trying to speak German, like my first or couple weeks there, like just showing also the difference between cultures. A lot of the grocery stores have cheese counters where you like have to get all your cheese behind the counter. You can't get it just in the grocery store. So I had to order my cheese. I just wanted some freaking cheddar cheese. Like I wanted to be reminded of home. I wanted some cheddar cheese. And so
like comfort food.
It's my comfort food. And so I had to go and ask her for cheese, but it's also like they do it in grams and all that. I'm like trying to like figure this out. Like, I don't know the metric system. Like, how am I supposed to order this cheese?
Couldn't Google it on your iPhone.
And in German. I didn't have an iPhone. Yeah. It's like, so I was terrified just to order. And I ended up chickening out and like not getting cheese that day.
No.
And I remember like the first time I did order it successfully, I felt so proud of myself. Just getting cheese.
It's funny how like those little things, even here, like in wherever you live, it can be so satisfying.
I know.
Like little accomplishments can make you feel so good.
Oh, totally. I mean that's just like there's just little things like that kind of add up over time of like cultural differences. That just when you're here, you don't even think about them because you're just used to them.
Yeah.
But when you're in a different culture and it's like your everyday, like it gets really tiring sometimes. You just want to curl up in your apartment and like not go out.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I can imagine. I've heard that from other people too, where it's just like, because you're just constantly thinking. If you're here and you're in a place that's comfortable, it's just like autopilot almost. You don't have to think much. You're just like, this is what I do.
And it's still probably the same if you even go to like England or Ireland where they speak our language. Like there's still enough cultural differences for you to be like turned off by some things. And need to like isolate yourself.
You're like, listen to your favorite hype song to like get ready to just go out and conquer.
I will say though, like, I mean, I walked or rode my bike everywhere, and that kind of became almost my therapy. Like, cause I lived really close to a river, and I would just go walking up and down the path on the river, and like that was kind of my therapy there.
Yeah.
So
that sounds nice.
Yeah. I mean, Dresden was a beautiful city, and like, that kind of made it easier at times because there's like art and music and just amazing cultural stuff there. So it was easy to fall in love with that city, and it became like a second home in a sense, but it always was not going to be my home because I'm not German, you know? Sure. And even the longer I stayed there, I still would not ever be German enough, you know?
Yeah. Or you'd have to spend like a lot of years to like really feel like you fit in. Mm-hmm. What did you have a lot of good German food?
Oh my goodness. Yes. I miss the food sometimes. I also gained a lot of weight there. You know, when I went there too, like I never really drank beer before. And I remember the first time I tried a beer, it was like a Pilsner, which is like super bitter. Yeah. And I hated it, but the lady I was with, she's like, okay, you need to try a Radler because they put Sprite in it. And Radlers are usually, you drink them because it's to radeln means to like ride a bike. So you're drinking less beer when you're riding a bike by putting Sprite in it, I guess. I don't know. But so I tried it with that first. So like the first couple months I was there and I'd have a beer, I'd always have a Radler. But then I like would try the Diesel, which is dark beer with Coke, and got into that. And then, I discovered Hefeweizens. And I was like, this is my jam. And yeah, love Hefeweizens.
It's like people getting into coffee where they're like, well, I put a lot of creamer and sugar in it, but
it just took a little time to find the right beer. Yeah. The food too. Yeah. What's funny is like you'd go to like a bakery or something in the morning, and you'd see like these old men sitting in there drinking beer already at like 8:00 in the morning and like having like beer and like a schnitzel or something. It's like, this is really stereotypical and too early to be having this.
Yeah. I don't think you see that. It's not as common in America.
No.
Not that I've seen anyway.
No.
What was it like when you first came back?
I'd probably have to say way harder than going there. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, way harder. Because coming back, like everyone here that I knew had been living their lives for 2 years. And nothing, like it was just their norm. But like I had like turned up my life to go live in a different culture, and I just felt like they've all moved on, but like I'm coming back and I haven't, like my experiences were different.
Yeah, it's almost like you're starting from the beginning or where you left, but they had already moved forward.
Exactly. And like most of them most of my friends had started careers, some of my friends got married, had babies. Like I felt like all this stuff had like progressed for them, and like I'm still figuring out my life. Yeah. And like having experienced so much of it in the past 2 years in different culture, like I knew I had changed completely, and I also didn't want to constantly be talking about Germany like an asshole. Yeah. Like, but
you also like, that's what that's what your experience is. That's what
I know. And like, well, in Germany, like I didn't want to be that person. Yeah. So I actually had a worse time coming back. I had a lot of anxiety, and my eye twitched for like an entire couple months, like every day, just like twitching
constantly.
Like, yeah, like one of my eyes, like every day was just twitching. Man. And it's just like stress, I also would get ocular migraines. Like, do you know what those are? Like,
I've heard of them. I don't know a lot about them.
If you look into the sun,
yes,
and, in like those spots, it's kind of like that. So it would travel across my field of vision and like massive migraine. And that went on for several months.
Wow.
And it's just because stress and moving back. And like, I just felt like I didn't know what I wanted to do when I come back still. I thought going to Germany might help fix that, because I didn't really know if I wanted to do advertising when I graduated. And I just kind of came back and I felt like I was still in that place.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it was a really frustrating time.
How'd you come out of it though?
I don't know, I think it just took time. Like it took time and just taking time to like learn about myself more. It was just a process. I really, honestly, I couldn't tell you. It just took time.
Yeah. Did you find yourself missing Germany more than you thought you would?
Yeah, I did. I think also I got to the point where I made it better than it actually probably was at times. You know, like in my mind, like everything was so great in Germany when, I mean, it was tough at times. It was terribly tough at times.
Sure.
But then I don't know, rose-colored glasses or what, you know, like you see things differently and a different perspective when you're back because you're like, oh, it was just so perfect there.
Well, it's like getting out of a bad relationship.
I know.
People
You only
remember
see the good things. Yeah.
Oh, we were great together.
Everything was so perfect. No, it was not perfect, but I only wanted to see the good stuff because I was having such a hard time back here.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I knew I would have a hard time. Like they kind of helped prepare you for that, but like until you've gone through it, you don't understand how hard it's probably going to be. So
did you have other people to talk to that had also...
I did. Like that was the good thing is like I had other people I could kind of vent to about it. And that's probably what helped me through it, I would say, was just the certain people who had either done the program or lived overseas, all that kind of stuff, and help walk me through that kind of time.
Did you guys just like complain about how terrible Americans are? Like,
I mean, at times.
They'd get it if they were like living abroad.
See, that's the person I didn't want to be.
Well, you could be that around the other people who were like also from that same experience.
No, I think we were all jaded. No, I mean, it's the same. Like, not everything is perfect in America either. And I think you just kind of have to see the good in each culture. And that's kind of what I needed, I think, was to be able to experience another culture, see the good and the bad, know that we have the same here, good and bad. You know, there's no one perfect culture, but it's good to like see the differences in other people. So I think I really needed that experience.
Yeah.
As tough as it was at times.
Well, how did you start to change with religion once you got back? Like, was it immediate?
No, it was a very gradual process. Like, and it's not like I'm like, I hate religion now, because I'm not that person. But I think when I came back, I just didn't feel like I'd go to a huge church again because I had gone to such a big church my whole life. And then in Germany, I was like, you know, a couple dozen people at the most, you know, at times. So coming back, just like going to a church of like several thousand just like freaked me out. So I decided to go with some other friends to a smaller Church of Christ. And just like over time, like I'd find myself sitting in the pew, like wondering why I was there. Like, I'm not giving anything in this service. I'm not receiving anything, you know, like it just didn't feel like, I don't know, like legit anymore to me. Like I felt like I was kind of faking my way through it. And there was just several other experiences that I saw, like the other aspects of church life, like I was saying, the business side of church life and like just kind of put me through like gave me a bad taste in my mouth, I guess. And I don't want to say like every church is like this. I'm not trying to generalize churches, but I don't know. I think it started over time. I noticed my attendance was less and less. I'd become less involved in stuff. And I was like, well, I'm just going to live church it and watch it on TV or watch it on the computer.
Yeah.
Still going to church. But my heart wasn't in it anymore. And like, I think I just needed to take a break. But I mean, that break's been like 4 years now.
Yeah, which is fine. And I don't want to I don't want to bash churches either. I think, like I said before, it should be like a personal thing. And it's like, it's tough to figure out what actually feels right and what you believe.
And I gotta say, some of that has to do too with the fact that I'm still single in a church where if I feel like if you're married with kids in a church, it makes it a little bit easier to feel like you're included and involved.
That's a good point.
And I just kind of constantly kept feeling like I was on the outside. They're always asking me to do the kids class. Didn't want to do it.
Did you feel pressure from people in the church?
I kind of did feel pressured to do it at times because, I mean, you're free. You can do that. You know, I don't think there was one single person that was trying to pressure me. But, you know, you feel like that feeling inside of like,
it's like you're putting that pressure on yourself based on how everyone else is feeling.
Yes. And I'm not saying there wasn't amazing people there, because there were, but I think it was more just me internally going through it, and I needed to step away from it.
Yeah.
So, but it's been about 4 years now, and I just haven't felt that desire to go back, you know?
Do you think you would go back if you were married?
That's tough.
Like if you married someone, maybe
If I married someone who was like,
well, maybe they're not even
really into
religious. Maybe they're
church.
just like, but they're curious or they want to go or they're sort of in church. Do you think you'd go
I
back
think
and
it
feel
would
comfortable?
depend. I mean, if we were both interested in going to that church, I would have to be kind of like a mutual discussion. I'm not turned off from all churches.
Sure.
And my beliefs, I mean, like, I'm not like agnostic and I don't believe anything anymore. You know, I'm not atheist or anything now, but
Is it just about trying to find something that fits?
yeah, and just also being single, I just don't want to be pegged as that single girl, and the you know, like,
They're like, well, we're gonna
she's
need
kind
to
of
find
awkward.
you a
Gotta
man.
get her a husband. Like, that's just not. It's not me.
Yeah, I've got that from people too, like especially, you know, ones that are maybe more rigid in their views and like, why are you find yourself a wife? And I'm like, well, I don't think it's that easy, but
I mean, I felt like it was
I
just like the
appreciate it.
singles groups were just like husband hunting or wife hunting, you know,
Yeah.
like, and I didn't want that. And I'd hear the same, we talk about the same things we've talked about since like middle school, like being abstinent, all, you know, like all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't need to hear this damn thing again.
yeah, can't we
Like,
talk about something else?
seriously?
Yeah, that would get
It got redundant for me. And
Right.
like, I just didn't, I don't know. I was in a different place anymore. You know?
yeah. And it's not even really about religion, God, or anything. It's like, why are we having these conversations?
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about something else.
The thing is, like, I can have deep spiritual conversations with other people and not attend a church service.
Yeah.
I felt like I was just going through the traditional motions of like getting up on Sunday, getting nicely dressed, going and like doing the same 3 songs. Then we stand up, sit down, you know, like it was like there wasn't heart into it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for other people, there might be, and that's totally okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not bashing those people for being okay with
Sure.
going through those motions or the tradition of it all. That's if they can feel like they're offering something or it's giving them something or whatever, then all for it. But for me, it just, I couldn't do it anymore. I felt fake.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, for me, it's like it is more something I need to sit by myself and think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like you're going along with what they're telling you, which maybe is true and maybe you believe it, but I feel like I need to take that and sit alone with my thoughts and
Yeah,
decide what makes sense to me.
exactly.
It's hard to be, because you get that crowd, like it's easy to go with a crowd if everyone's like, this is what it is, but it's probably better if you actually take some time to think about it.
Right.
So I don't know, but I mean, I agree. It's like, whatever works for you.
Right.
I think people spend too much time like trying to tell everyone else what they should be
that's
doing.
why there's like church splits, because there's too many people butting heads over this is the right way, you know?
Yeah, like you're never gonna get everyone to agree, and once you try to start doing that, you're
Yep.
you're screwed.
Yeah.
I think you got to be a little more accepting and say, I don't know, I don't see it that way, but I'm gonna try to listen to why you see it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now we're getting deep.
It's
I love
getting
it.
real deep, man.
I love it.
How far are we in?
We got 3 minutes.
Oh my
left.
gosh, you kidding me?
Oh, flies right by.
Wow, talk about religion. I will say though, I'm like kind of the black sheep now of my family.
In that respect, like with
Yeah, I mean, my whole family still goes to church, and it's been kind of a sore topic in the past 4 years. Like,
yeah,
my dad, I think, has had a harder time with me not going than my mom. My mom's pretty open and accepting. But I mean, I'm respectful. Like at Christmas, I'll go with him. I don't want to cause a problem. It's not like I disagree with everything, you know, but I don't always agree with everything either. So I have to just kind of respect that and still go with them. But yeah, my dad and I have had some heated discussions.
That's tough.
It is tough.
Because what can you do about that?
I know. I'm pretty sure
Really?
they think I'm lost. So it's like I'm one of those people now.
Yeah, we gotta save
Because
her.
when you've been on the inside and you aren't anymore, you know how people probably view you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's tough to like accept that.
Because that's kind of what you were doing when you went
Yeah.
to Germany, right? You're like, we're trying to help these people
I know.
that are lost.
Yep.
Oh,
It's
man.
a crazy twist, isn't
Come
it?
full circle in a weird way.
I know. And like if I would have back then known where I'd be now, like I would have been like, no, you're kidding me. There's no way.
Yeah.
So I'm like uber church girl.
But it's also so great. I feel like that lets you look at people in a way that's more accepting, where you can say, we come from completely different backgrounds, but I understand you more than I would have
Exactly.
when I was 22.
Yeah. When I used to have this friend when I did Zumba, I mean, we're still friends, but like we used to be closer than we are now, but she is Indian and is Hindu and like the kindest person I've ever met. And so this was going on when I was kind of in the process of like maybe considering leaving church, and I was friends with her and I would just know how amazing this person was, and she believed so differently than me. How
Yeah.
could she be this horrible person, you know, and like not be accepted by God and all that? So I was just, that kind of was also a turning point for me, is like meeting friends with different beliefs and stuff and realizing they're not terrible just because they believe differently than
Yeah.
me.
It's like you could see they have a really good heart, but it's
Yeah.
like, well, what I've been told is that,
I mean, she grew up just as much in the Hindu faith. That's the way that her life had led, like her entire life. So she knew that to be truth to her, just
Yeah.
as much as Christianity was for me. And so it's just like, how could, oh, we're done.
no, keep going.
I was like, how could we not like somehow find common ground and be okay with each other? You know, like
Yeah.
that was also probably a turning point for me with deciding not to go to a church anymore. But
That's always been my view too. It's like, those people that are saying this other religion is wrong, they believe it just as strongly as
yeah,
this other group. So if you consider that, they're in the same mindset, they just have a different view.
I know.
It's going to be really
mean, they
hard
were-
for you to tell them, you're wrong.
I know.
Like, even if that were true, how do you tell somebody that?
Yeah.
And you can't really prove that.
I know.
So
It's tough, man.
what would you tell anybody who is thinking about living abroad for a little while?
I mean, I have kind of a unique experience. Not everyone's going to go and work with a church. So that's
True.
different. But just as far as living in another culture, like if you have the opportunity, I think doing it young was pretty amazing for me. It allowed me to kind of discover more about myself and just, you know, it was a necessary process for me, but it gets you out of your comfort zone majorly. So I think it's good for everyone to kind of have that opportunity. Even if you don't get to like live abroad, traveling abroad is a really important experience too, I think. If you don't travel like major touristly.
Yeah. Just like get to experience another culture.
Yeah. Ask locals where to go and like just meet people who are in the culture instead of just trying to like see all the sights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah. Man, that went fast.
I know. It always does. Could have gone for 2 more hours.
Yep.
But I thought it was good.
Good.
And come
Hopefully
back.
I haven't turned off all my friends from
Well, I would be glad to talk more about this. You haven't turned me off
that
to
heathen, she
it. Yeah. She's a devil. No, but we could do this again. Maybe not. We don't
maybe
have
something lighter.
to, we can do a lighter topic. That's fine. Just come back and we'll do it again.
Because me and Cassie, who was on your podcast earlier,
Yes.
we have thoughts about that would you rather stuff.
I know. And for anybody who wants to, answer the questions for themselves, they can go listen to the Would You Rather podcast. And we might do another one with totally new topics with totally
It'd be
new
fun.
people.
It was a good one.
But till then, thanks. And I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
I'm so glad Amy got to come on the show. I think today's episode was a perfect example of why I started this podcast in the first place. I learned things about Amy that I may not have learned if we didn't schedule this time to have an important conversation these are things we might not have talked about. So maybe that's my fault. This is just my way of getting better at it. If you've enjoyed the show so far, consider leaving us a review on iTunes. And if you have any ideas for future episodes, send us a message. But until then, thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week.